Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a brand new Wednesday morning. A good day to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Zia Anekan, and I am super delighted to be here doing Rise and Shine with you. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
And I am Francis Oyemaide. Good morning, Oyai. Good morning, Nigeria, Africa. Good morning, world. Here's another beautiful day. Of course, it's midweek already. And so far, so good. A lot has happened within the course of the week. Some developments I would like to bring to you. But particularly, I think one of the major headlines that Nigerians are talking about is the 25,000 naira social investment or conditional cash transfer of the federal government that was launched yesterday by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Of course, another conversations I will also bring to the front burner today happens to be the comments by the NLC to the state governors, giving them 2 weeks ultimatum to kickstart, negotiations with state chapters of the NLC and other trade union organizations to ensure the 35,000 naira that was agreed upon in the MOU with the federal government is implemented at the state level. Of course, in the course of the week, we are expecting a lot of conversations. And of course, also, yesterday, our very own airline, Ibom Air, kick-started its milestone achievement, Lagos to Accra, Ghana. The very first flight actually, took place yesterday from Lagos to Accra. Some very top government officials, members of Ibom Air, celebrities across board, and the airline customers joined the flight from Lagos to Accra, Ghana yesterday. Also still on the front burner is the issue of the paramount rulers in Akwa Ibom State, which of course we saw Governor Pastor Umoino meeting with the paramount rulers across the 31 local government areas of the state and pledging and suing for peace while they try to resolve the issue that has arisen as a result of the upgraded traditional councils law.
Well, we also see the fact that 116 million naira has been set aside, to use in the purchase of SUVs, and in the process, we saw Abure telling Labour Party legislators to reject National Assembly gift. Of course, what exactly is this gift targeted at? These are some of the stories we have, lined up for you this morning on Rise and Shine. We also see the fact that, of course, the flood disasters is actually, on the rise. There's a lot more states getting affected and a lot more people getting affected at this time. So far, so good. We're looking at about 26,000 people being displaced. This is happening in Ghana and, some other parts of the world. But Ghana has already reported about 26,000 people being displaced for the flooding. Of course, these and more are some of the conversations we'll be having on Rise and Shine this morning. And, would like to encourage you to be a part of the conversation. So take advantage of our social media handles, all of which you can find at spectrumtvlive.ng. Our phone lines will be displayed on the screen. If you have any concerns, contributions, questions with regards to some of the issues that will be raised, please do feel free to use any of these platforms, and we will be here and ready to, respond. I beg your pardon, and give more light to it. But yeah. Rise and Shine would always say, let's talk Nigeria. Let's see what's happening in the country. We'll go to the very top of our list this morning on our flash news. We see the fact that the Senate has urged the federal government to declare state of emergency over substance abuse. This is a conversation that continues to trail us in Nigeria, and it seems there's a lot more people that are, getting susceptible to substance abuse. Only last year we had quite a number, of persons, and then, substances that were confiscated by, the NDLEA was quite large. We're running into thousands and thousands of tons of, illicit drugs that were, discovered and destroyed by the NDLEA yesterday. That also just gives you a peep into the number of people that are abusing substances, in the country at this time. But I think it has become more worrisome if we have the likes of NAFDAC raising a very serious alarm over the issue at this time. They're asking the federal government to declare substance abuse, as a state of emergency in the country.
Well, substance abuse has been a major issue. I recall during the celebration of the Drug Abuse Day the commandant of the NSCDC in Akwa Ibom State stated the fact that the younger generation are more inventive and innovative in terms of substance abuse. You can literally puke when you get to hear some of the things that people do in an attempt to make sure that they get high. While some of the drugs are readily available, you know, the younger generation have invented new avenues, new ways to actually create drugs or create ways to get high. And then when you look at the, you know, the level of criminal activities in the society, you match that side by side with a number of young people who are involved in different, you know, substance abuse. It raises a great lot of concern because we are looking at the newest generation. You're looking at the workforce. You're looking at the population that are categorized as the strength of the nation, the youth population. Now, when the youth population is greatly affected, when they're unable to think out solutions for themselves and in extension or by extension for their states and respective local government area, and of course for national growth and advancement, it raises a big question where Nigeria is headed in the next couple of years. I recall that as far as this drug substance abuse is concerned, many people have posited that is as a result of poverty. But then the NDLEA have said it is not as a result of poverty. I mean, first and foremost, apart from, you know, the inventive ways that people have thought out to get high, for you to even buy drugs, you need money, serious money, because these drugs don't come cheap. So for people to use the excuse that people take to drugs or to drug addiction as a result of you know, lack of money, it's completely a lie. So raising awareness and urging the federal government to declare a state of emergency is another way for the National Assembly to go. But then when the state of emergency is declared, there are certain concerns that, you know, stakeholders within the subsector want to see. If you're declaring a state of emergency, what are the modalities put in place to ensure that, okay, people who are found to be abusing substances will be brought in, they will be, you know, counseled, they get cleaned and then reintegrated into the society better than, you know, they were brought in? Because one of the reasons that the commandant of the NDLEA in Akwa Ibom State did say is, you know, feeling the increased number of people abusing substance is the fact that the government, the law has made it so much difficult for people to admit that they're actually abusing substances, because the weight of the law comes down for people who are abusing substance, not seeing them as victims, not seeing them as people who need help, but seeing them as criminals. And one of the advocacy now is, let's begin to move past seeing substance abusers as criminals. Let's begin looking past arresting them and charging them to court. Let's look past, you know, all of those punitive measures to actually understanding that these people are dysfunctional. They need help. And the first thing that the government of the day or the government needs to do is not to arrest and punish, but rather bring them in, counsel them, get them clean, and of course, make an effort to, you know, reintegrate them to the society. But after, you know, giving them the proper orientation that has changed their mindset. It's the same advocacy that is going for people with mental disorder and mental illness, where people literally believe that once you have a mental disorder or, you know, you come down with a mental illness, you cannot be reintegrated into the society. So those are the conversations that stakeholders are driving, and most people in Nigeria believe that if we get to that point, then people who are, you know, abusing substance will definitely have a different day. Now, you're also looking at young people who are introduced into substance abuse at a very tender age, when they did not know what it might mean for their life, what it might mean for their health. So to this category of young people who never knew what substance abuse is, or got introduced into substance abuse innocently and now have become addicted to it, the best way to go is not to punish, is not to arrest, but to open up a welcoming hand and let them know that, yes, you may have made the mistake of getting yourself involved in one substance abuse or the other, but the government is saying, come, we will take you in, we'll help you get cleaned up, we'll help you, you know, get back your life, get back on track to becoming who you were, you know, potentially created to be. And that will be the best way for Nigeria to be able to bring down the number of people who abuse drugs.
The thing we must look at is the fact that, you know, this substance abuse that the House of the Senate is decrying as of now has several consequences. It has national consequences, as it were. We're looking at the fact that, of course, it will continue to endanger our national development. It will endanger public safety and family systems. So that is why there is a clamor for this urgent action to be done. Of course, the Senate has instructed NAFDAC, as led by Mojisola Adeyeye, to work to liaise with other agencies in the country to be able to make sure that this becomes a thing of the past. We are looking at liaising with NDLEA. We are looking at just liaising with NSCDC and all of those agencies to make sure that this happens. But I think one of the strongest points that Francis has raised this morning is the criminalization of substance abusers. Even if you are going to punish them, it must not be like capital offenses. It's different from someone who is hawking or trading these substances, but people who you have seen that are victims of substance abuse. It is important that we first of all come from a psychological perspective and giving the medical care first of all before let's not criminalize it, so that we will have more people stepping up to come receive help for that particular condition. But that's what it is. The Senate is urging the federal government to declare substance abuse as a case of an emergency. State of emergency should be declared. But we'll move on from there. Of course, Ibom Air seems to be the rave of aviation in Nigeria, truth be told, and it will say, being from Akwa Ibom, we are proud to be exporting things of that quality. Ibom Air is 3 now, I think 4. Yes, Ibom Air is 4 now rather, and Ibom Air has served excellence, served consistency, served customer service in the last 4 years, impeccable service. I think Ibom Air is one of those very dependable airlines where you know that if the time for your flight is this time, it is going to be this time, and if for any reason it is going to be delayed, a proper explanation is going to be given. I hear people from all parts of the country say, if you are flying Ibom Air, you better do what you got to do when you got to do it. But what is beautiful about this is that Ibom Air is expanding. Initially, it was to the capital cities in Nigeria, but then they've been able to expand their flight time, to other parts of the nations. But then now we are seeing that they are launching Lagos, Accra, flight trips, and this is a win-win for the Akwa Ibom state government, and this is a big win for the Akwa Ibom people. But in the overall, let's look at how this is going to impact aviation in Nigeria. This is a very strategic move. Of course, Ibom Air is the Akwa Ibom state-owned airline, which has marked a milestone with the commencement of regional operations. The airline's inaugural flight from Lagos to Accra took off at 7 a.m. West African time, October 17, 2023. Of course, offering travelers a new gateway to explore the West African region. This strategic expansion aligns with Ibom Air's vision by offering passengers a travel experience that encompasses schedule reliability and on-time departures. Of course, we saw George Uresi expressing his enthusiasm about the new route. He is the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of Ibom Air. Of course, he's quoted to have said, "We are thrilled to commence our regional operations with the inaugural flight between Lagos and Accra." Of course, a significant step for Ibom Air in expanding their network out of Nigeria and into other African countries.
Definitely a great move from Ibom Air. Recall that when they launched, they celebrated their 4th anniversary. One of the key policy directions and statement that Captain Udom did say was that Ibom Air was going to go regional. And we also saw just during the week hours of the electionary period, Akwa Ibomites in Cameroon, Akwa Ibomites in other countries within the African region calling for Ibom Air to also initiate flights that will allow them move directly from Cameroon to Akwa Ibom, from Cameroon to Nigeria, from other countries within the sub region back to Nigeria and Akwa Ibom state, to be precise. And then of course Ibom Air had said they were going to look into that, and that within the shortest possible time they were actually going to kickstart that flight. So it was a thing of joy. Yesterday we had, the creme de la creme within the Nollywood industry, the likes of Inedo, being part of the first passengers who alighted from from Lagos to Accra, Ghana. And it was a lot of fanfare, yesterday to celebrate that significant milestone. Of course, it's another, great image for Akwa Ibom State. Another great feather for Ibom Air, and of course, we expect that a lot more of such great achievement is going to come within the nearest possible time. We're starting, Ibom Air starting with Accra, Ghana. Akwa Ibomites, Nigerians expect to see the regional flight cutting across other countries within the sub-region. So it's a great thing and a great development.
Of course, a great development it is, for the Ibom Air and the aviation industry in Nigeria in the overall, because this is success that is recorded for Nigeria. We are also seeing the fact that this shows that our aviation tentacles are spreading into, the continent. And let's see how sustainable this is going to be for, Ibom Air. And this also goes to say that, state governments need to be innovative with regards to developmental strides that they bring. If you look at the angle of the economic impact of having a state-owned airline that is able to do trips all around the nation, and now it's exporting international trips on the continent. This, it has a gross impact on what our GDP is as a state. So we're also, more like calling on other state governments. Let's begin to see what we can do. More productivity, more innovative ideas that can see Nigeria and other states of the federation exporting talent, exporting innovation, and basically, I think Ibom Air exports experience of hospitality. I know the Akwa Ibom and the Aqua Cross region is largely known for hospitality, and I see how that Ibom Air has incorporated that experience of hospitality into their service to Nigerians and people who use the airline, and that's a big one, and a big congratulations for Akwa Ibom State and the people of Nigeria. Of course, we move to our very first major story this morning, seeing the fact that Tinubu's ministers face their first assessment by January. Of course, the federal government, as led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had put together about 48 ministers of the Federal Republic, and they have started serving. We have seen some of them put forth a very strong argument for their different ministries. We've seen some of them take very strong developmental strides, even changing, how these ministries are perceived. But we see that there's going to be a performance review, for Tinubu's ministers in January. It's called like the first assessment of what they have done so far. And I think a lot of people will, a lot of ministers and a lot of ministries will be applauded. Now, the federal government will begin quarterly assessments of the performance of the 48 ministers in January, when their ministries will have received the budget for the 2024 fiscal year. Special Advisor to the President on Policy Coordination, Ms. Hadiza Usman, explained that the annual scorecard would be reviewed during periodic retreats where performances would be assessed against key performance indicators. We need to know what these key performance indicators are for the federal government. We also see the fact that they are looking to commence an assessment of the respective ministries by January 2024. And of course, to have a quarterly assessment of these performance, which will culminate into an annual scorecard. I remember that at the beginning, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu brought in his ministers, he had said it's not going to be work as usual. Literally, you have been called to work, and if you do not render the kinds of services for which you were brought, you will be let go, so that someone who knows the job exactly will come on bear. So this is a good move, just to know that whatever you are doing, there is a scorecard that is coming ahead. Because a lot of them are putting a lot of work so far, but there's few of them we haven't even heard their names about what they're doing. right now we'll say we'll have about between the numbers to 5-10 very strong and vocal ministers that have already shaken up their various ministries. But we have, let's excuse the 3 that were just confirmed. We've had 4 to 5 people at the beginning, but about 5 to 10 alone, if I'm not, overshooting the numbers, but that are doing, we've heard, they've mapped out their blueprints as to what they want to do with their ministries. The likes of Bumitun Jojo have already brought in results. I mean, Wike entered Abuja with a loud mouth and, all of those kinds of things. So this scorecard is really going to keep a lot of people on their toes and in check to make sure that they deliver on the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, of course, I like the way you put it. Wike entered Abuja with a loud mouth, and he followed it up with a loud action, or the loudest of actions, of course, tricking people everywhere here and there just to re-strategize, the FCT. Of course, we have the likes of Wale Edun, who's also doing very well, Dr. Beta Edu, Professor Ali Pate, all of them, they're standing out and speaking tough and matching words with action. But of course, the question has always been sustainability. And Nigerians had questioned when President Ahmed Bola Tinubu said we're going to have to, review the performances of the respective political appointees of this present administration. The same thing that Governor Pastor Umoina said in Akwa Ibom State as well, which of course was one of the reasons why most Nigerians said, okay, we're going to watch and see, we're going to see how they perform, and we're going to also have to score and look at the indices that the federal government is going to use to judge their performances. But of course, for us to be able to assess these, government appointees, we also have to look at, the availability and accessibility, how much of their presence is felt in the media space, because you can't be performing and then the Nigerian people are not aware of what it is you are doing. So it goes a long way to say that if Ahmed Bola Tinubu and the federal government is actually going to be sincere, because it's one thing to review, the essence of that review, the result of that review, the impact of that review will only happen when there is sincerity on the part of the committee that will be saddled with the responsibility, to review. Now, in the event that the people who are entrusted with the responsibility to review do not, follow due diligence and are not sincere with the indices that will be used to judge these respective government appointees, then definitely the review would have been defeated without even, taking place. So Nigerians are calling on President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Yes, it's a good thing for you to bring in periodic review to, assess the performances of the people you've entrusted to lead Nigeria. We also recall that the president gave the ministers 3 years to, bring about complete transformation as far as the Nigerian economy is concerned and other subsectors. And of course, that 3 years that kick-started, months already gone. Nigerians are beginning to count down. So periodic review definitely will go a long way. By the time we get to 1 year, Nigerians should be able to look back and see what minister is doing what minister isn't doing what minister has been able to perform, and what minister or which minister has not been able to, perform. And so we'll then begin to see the willpower on the part of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to actually say, okay, by the review of the committee, XYZ minister has done excellently well, so stay in your honors. By the review of the committee, XYZ minister have not done even up to average, so please, the back door is there for you to go. We're bringing in somebody who can do the job better, and that significantly will bring about, intentional and deliberate commitment on the part of the government appointees. It will bring about a lot of energy, positive energy, to bring about delivery of excellence services within the different subsectors and the different ministries, departments and agencies of government. And that will work in the overall best interest of Nigeria.
Well, those are glad tidings. If we follow them the way that you are enumerating them, but still speaking about how we can do things better in Nigeria and how we can move the economy forward, of which is the most pressing issue on the front burner, and not just for Nigeria but other parts of the nations, other parts of the world. I beg your pardon. We also see the fact that the president is looking at how we can begin to generate revenue from other sources of resources that we have in Nigeria. We are a nation that is grossly blessed, just like the continent of Africa is, but we seem to lean keen on just, you know, one particular strength that we have or one particular resource, when we could, you know, always, you know, explore other options. But we are seeing that the federal government intends to look into exploration of gold and other natural resources. But the problem seems to be that we have illegal miners in, you know, all of these different sectors in the country. When you're looking at gold mining and other kinds of resources available in the likes of what's the place now, Niger State. I know we have some really strong, you know, natural resources. But the president is saying that all of these illegal activities is gone, and we are going to look into these areas to be able to establish federal government presence to make sure that we are, you know, mining or generating this revenue in such a way that it works for the overall good of Nigerians and the national economy.
Well, of course, for the longest time, Nigeria have been very much over-dependent on oil, when we know that across the different states of the Federation, there is literally no state that isn't blessed with, you know, a mineral resources, natural mineral resources that could be tapped in. And of course, if the right investment is being, you know, made in those sectors, then Nigeria will have multiple avenues to have foreign, you know, revenue coming into the country. And of course, growing a foreign reserve, being able to have enough money to stop borrowing enough money to be able to fund, you know, the developmental projects that are needed to transform the landscape of the Nigerian society. So of course, I know that when the President Ahmed Bola Tinubu took over, he said he was going to look into making sure businesses thrive. And one of the aspects of businesses that needs to thrive is the solid mineral sector. Literally getting those different, you know, minerals to export value and export quantity, definitely going to change the narrative. We're going to have a lot more going out of Nigeria by way of export. We're also going to have a lot more coming into Nigeria by way of revenue that's being generated. But of course, like you rightly stated, one of the biggest challenge, the biggest danger in the solid mineral sector has been the activities of illegal, you know, miners. I know that within the course of last week in Akwa Ibom, for instance, we saw a Chinese company that was allegedly caught, you know, illegally mining in a reserved area, which of course we saw the people of Eket, you know, rising and calling on Akwa Ibom State government to address those concerns. And it's not limited to Akwa Ibom State. It is literally happening across the different states of the Federation. So the move by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to ensure there are policy statement, policy guidelines, policy streamlining framework guarding the activities of miners, making sure that every miner coming into the country aligns with the renewed hope agenda, of course, gets to be properly documented, gets to get the right licenses and work in collaboration with government agencies, definitely will be a great fit for the mining sector. And of course, that's what Nigerians are looking for. The more money we are able to get, the more investment we are able to make into the solid mineral sector, the more we're going to be able to export and the better it is. And you're also talking about job creation, because with all these mineral subsectors or solid mineral across board, you're looking at miners, you're looking at, you know, firms coming in, you're looking at, you know, normalizing the activities within that sector. And of course, by extension, you're looking at the employment generation that will create apart from the revenue and what that will mean for the Nigerian economy.
Well, when we see the president saying that the exporting of lithium and, you know, gold in their raw state is over, let's remember when, you know, the president made that kind of statement, you know, May 29, he said, you know, the era of subsidy removal is gone. Now he has come again. What's today's date? I think today is
18th.
Today's 18th. On the 17th of October, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has declared that the exporting of lithium and gold in their raw state is gone. He has said that era is gone. The last time the President made that kind of you know, gave that kind of verdict, we have all seen you know what it has been like. So for these verdicts now, when we look into, you know, these non-oil generating, you know, aspects of, you know, the economy, what is this going to mean? What kind of effect is it going to have when the president says that no more are we going to be able to export some of these natural resources in their raw state? I mean, it will infer that the federal government is going to look for ways to make sure that we, you know, find ways to, what's the word? Refine this natural resources and this produce in our country before we export them. It's just like having cocoa in, you know, very large quantity, but all we do is exporting raw cocoa, depend on, you know, importing chocolate and all of those things when we can do it. So when the president says that, you know, taking the creation of the policy and value addition into that particular sector is something we are going to look at. Let's see, do we have what it takes to actually say, okay, we are not going to export just our raw gold, but we are going to make sure that we can put all hands on deck, refine these things, and rather export, you know, finished products. These are lofty ideas. These are things that sound good on paper, but we always say implementation and actualization of these different policies and these different moves of the federal government is what Nigerians are looking out for, is what Nigerians are expecting. And when you say that, you know, we even have, I think we're having a conversation sometime past where you see how, you know, international nationals, people from other nations of the world come into the country and they are the ones participating in this illegal mining. What are the rules and regulations of this sector, and how will they be able to clamp down on all of these activities so that in the overall, what this will also do is that we can, you know, navigate and put into a particular stream where all of the resources of that sector is going. Not that, you know, people are mining, they're making the money, but the country is getting impoverished. It doesn't even affect your, you know, unemployment ratio. It doesn't affect, you know, generally the gross economic inputs in the country. So there's a lot to look at with regards to this particular one. Mr. President has said it again, but let's see what the ministry in charge is going to do. What kinds of interpretation is this going to, you know, give that sector, and in how long, what's the duration of time that we expect to begin to see results? These are, you know, are some of the questions on the minds of Nigerians at this time as we begin to see, you know, different policy innovations in the Tinubu-led administration. But these are strong stories. These are things happening. Remember that at the beginning we encouraged you to be a part of the conversation, to take advantage of the social media platforms. Our phone lines are displayed on your screen. Feel free to call in and make your contributions. We'll just take this other story this morning before we do a quick rush to the front pages of our national dailies. This one feels like a scuttle. Labour Party, in the just concluded cycle of election, they were able to produce members of in the National Assembly, produce members in the House of Representatives, and there seems to be a new move. The national chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, has condemned the 160 million naira official vehicle being awarded to each of the 360 members of the House of Representatives. Now, he was urging his party lawmakers to reject the gift. He described the action as the height of insensitivity. I know we were going to bring up this conversation, Francis. A few days ago, we found out that vehicles had been purchased for members of the House of Representatives. It's standing at about 160 million naira worth of vehicles, and Abure, chairman of the Labour Party, is saying that this is absolutely insensitive to the current realities that Nigerians are facing on ground. Of course, we are seeing that he has, he's condemning this move by the federal government. Of course, this condemnation was coming in the wake of a report that members of the Senate and House of Representatives have started receiving a gift of a new 2023 SUV each. Of course, in the last 2 days, different perspectives and parts of NAS have been coming under scrutiny, and this one is also a big case. Of course, we are seeing procurement of 109 Toyota Land Cruisers for senators and 2023 Toyota Prado for 360 members of the House of Representatives. Francis, I think the first question I'm going to ask is that when you go to the Senate, go to the National Assembly, for instance, most of the people there are people that have been sitting on those seats for the last couple of years. What happens to the last vehicle that was bought for them with millions of naira? It expired. Okay. It expired.
You know, vehicles expire after every two months, or maybe 1 year, or after every 4 years.
Okay.
The same vehicles that, Nigeria is building money for maintenance, the same housing and accommodation we are budgeting money to maintain. It expires every year, every 4 years we have to renew them. And then one question, some questions that Nigerians and right forward thinking people will always ask is, if these politicians were to buy these vehicles with their money, will they be changing vehicles every 4 years? Will they be buying the latest models of vehicles every 4 years? And the answer, of course, is no. Look at the entrepreneurs who are making money, who are, working themselves out every day of their life to make money. How many of these persons buy cars every 4 years? How many of them change their interior designs of furniture or their kitchenwares every 4 years? But we are sitting down in Nigeria. The government is changing silverwares in the presidency. They're changing furnitures at the presidency, at the National Assembly. You will always wake up to see the humongous amount of money being budgeted for, changes of the same. And then you also ask, when these things are changed, where do the old ones go to?
Where do the old ones go?
What happens to those old ones? What happened to, what exactly happened to all of the money that is voted in? And then do we actually see these things being changed? And it's just a way to vote in money, budget money for National Assembly members, Nigerian politicians to just take home and further enrich themselves at the detriment of Nigeria. I like to agree with the Labour Party chairman at this point in time, like most Nigerians have, because you're looking at a country that is battling with economic downturn. You're looking at a country where 84 million, as posited by Wale Edun, are living in abject poverty. The same country where you see millions being voted to buy vehicles for a few number of the elite member of the society in the name of what? Because they are National Assembly members. These are very grave concern. And it goes down to the same conversations that we've had and Nigerians have had, Africans have had. The biggest problem of the African continent is the problem of leadership. Mm-hmm. How is it that millions of Nigerians are suffering? And rather than think of ways to ensure that, these group of Nigerians are well taken care of, that the economy is made to work in a way that everybody can actually eke out a living for themselves, you're looking forward to further enriching the richest amongst the society. Now, let's look at the paltry 25,000 naira conditional cash transfer that is being made. And we are told it's going to affect how many Nigerians? 60-something million Nigerians. How much is 25,000 naira? How much can 25,000 naira buy in the market? What happens to voting 100 million? What happens to voting maybe 200,000 naira conditional cash transfer to Nigerians? We can't get to that point because, of course, the average Nigerian is not a legislator. The average Nigerian's his interest doesn't matter, or interest doesn't matter, and the politicians do not really care about the interests of the Nigerian people. So it's a worrying situation. It's a grave concern. It's something that if I'm a Bolatini with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is really serious about, changing the narrative, bringing about the much desired, the most touted renewed hope agenda that will bring about economic, transformation, then it has to start. And I'll still, go back to what Kingsley Moghalu said yesterday. It's about time for us to look very seriously into cutting the cost of governance, cutting down what our politicians, go home with on a daily basis. And I think some Nigerians, jumped on that, that comment by Kingsley Moghalu to say, we don't even want, like our guest said yesterday, let's not even not talk about 50%. Let's talk about 20%. And some Nigerians are saying, okay, let's even prioritize it in a way that politicians are also graded as civil servants. Let's see if we will still have the level of, animosity. Let's see if we still have the level of desperation that we see people during electionary period. So if we really want to see changes in Nigeria, it has to start from the top. Yes, we know that, being an elite member of the society comes with some expectations, but those expectations should not be met at the detriment of the generality of Nigerians.
When you say expectations, you're wondering who is putting the expectations on you. Nigerians voted you to go into these offices and serve. We did not, vote you in there to drive classic cars. We did not, vote you there to wear the best of clothing or be able to afford holiday trips that most Nigerians will never be able to afford till they, they pass away from this realm of life. It's just very inconsiderate. And I think one of the things that, is on my mind is the fact that when you ask them why there is a need for these kinds of purchases, I was reading somewhere where it said, all of these things are just instruments and tools for them to get the work done. When you hear 160 million naira is voted to, get cars. Now, I think one thing that is keeping me is if each of these cars, each of these Prados and Toyotas, is costing 160 million naira each, or you're multiplying the number of vehicles that will be gotten for every member. If it is 160 million naira each on each vehicle for each person, the federal government is stealing from Nigerians, and it should be inexcused. First of all, when you say that these vehicles are used for service, it's going to help them to work. we should ask the members of the National Assemblies whether they drive these cars to the war front. Because, I mean, it doesn't make sense. 160 million naira, you're buying vehicles, Prados, buying Toyota, whatever was called, and you're going to sit down, drive it from your house, drive it to the National Assembly or the House of Reps to have meetings. These vehicles are not, they are not powered for the war front. It's not like, they're investing those monies to buy vehicles for the Nigerian military, the Nigerian Air Force, or the Nigerian Police Force to be able to use and help make this country safer for the average Nigerian. So multiply 160 million times the number of persons in the National Assembly and the House of Representatives. Francis, how much is that costing us, as a nation, just for aesthetics? Because that is what it is. You can afford to drive whatever you're driving and just get these policies and this nation moving forward. But there's got to be someone who can actually call these persons to order and ask the right questions. Just like our guest had said yesterday, yes, SERAP is doing a great job, but we must begin to see other agencies, other civil society organizations, all the well-meaning Nigerians stand up and, put these people to the test and ask them questions. If our judiciary can be trusted, let's take these people to court. Let's ask the right questions. Yes, for the longest time we have said it. The salaries and emoluments of, public service holders, of our politicians, needs to be reviewed downward because they are living the life that even the public treasury of our nation cannot afford. It is actually very insensitive, just like Abure, the national chairman of the Labour Party, has said. You can't use 160 million naira and buy vehicles for each individual of these, houses, that are representing Nigeria. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should do better than this. This will be the expectation. He has said, he wants to make sure that there is no dividing line between the elites. I mean, he was the one who made us to know that there is even something as the elites of the elite. We need to barricade all of those things and let's make sure that this country moves forward.
Well, you're looking at the price of the most expensive SUVs.
2023 model, now, for God's sake.
You're looking at an average of $57,000 for each. That is an average of an amount to be spent on single. So if you multiply all of those by the numbers of legislators that we have, you definitely know how many billions of naira Nigeria is voting out to purchase vehicles.
And first of all, Francis, we are importing these vehicles. We have the likes of Innocent and other people in Nigeria that can, give us cars. Even if you say, okay, we want to buy vehicles for, these people, why not go to Innocent, let him give you the best of his, his brands, the best of his products. But no, we are going to use billions of naira, import vehicles from other parts of the world, make the economies of those nations better, bring it into, it's just unreasonable at the end of the day.
Well, it raises a whole lot of questions, and not just Innocent, not like trying to promote, but we know that apart from Innocent, there are other people who want to venture into, car manufacturing in Nigeria. What happens to empowering those people to manufacture cars? You're practicing you're rather preaching, let's consume what we produce, let's enjoy made in Nigerian goods. But the government is not showing, the example, is not leading by example to actually show Nigerians that, okay, we are committed to consuming what is produced in Nigeria. And we are setting the example by buying made in Nigerian cars for our National Assembly members. We are showing example by wearing clothes that are made in Nigeria. I mean, the smallest of the smallest cadre of the politicians, the local government councillor, doesn't want to wear clothes that is made by a designer in Nigeria, in Akwa Ibom. They want to wear designers that are made outside the shores of the country. So if you imagine that, and then of course we're seeing the highest level of insensitivity to the patronage of made in Nigerian goods, made in Nigerian products and services at the federal level, at the National Assembly level, from the top cadre members of the society. And then you ask, why should the average Nigerian also think of patronizing made in Nigerian goods, made in Nigerian product, when you have made it crystal clear that the standards are not matching with that of others produced outside the shores of the world? That is a serious concern that we need to look into. But then it comes down to the biggest question. These are the guys who are responsible for making the laws. They are the ones who call the shots. So will they be selfless enough? Will they be patriotic enough to put the interests of the generality of Nigerians above their personal interests? Well, the answer is far-fetched. Until we get to that point where they prioritize the interests of Nigerians, then You just may never see the renewed hope agenda being renewed hope to anybody outside the members of the elite members of the society.
That brings me to saying, when we are talking about the renewed hope, like you said, are we renewing just the hope of those in that elitist class, or the president does actually have, you know, more stock up for Nigerians? And this is what we would say to Mr. President. Dearest Mr. President, we need to cut the cost of governance in our country. The burden of how much we spend to service those that we're called to serve is way more than what we are willing to put into projects and infrastructure in the country. We cannot be, you know, setting aside budgets and padding them just to be able to provide comfort for a few people in the country. Mr. President, we need to cut down the cost of governance, and that must be done as soon as possible, or else we are going to drive up our numbers with borrowing, we are going to drive up our numbers with people living in poverty, and we are going to continue to drive up the gap between the leaders of this nation and the people that they are leading. These are issues that need to be properly attended to, and is a very serious one. Well, let's just do a quick swipe now to Ghana. 26,000 people you know, required to leave their homes at the request of the authorities, National Disaster Management Organization, for, of course, NADMO now for Ghana. Of course, we have seen the fact that crops have been destroyed and schools shut after 2 hydroelectric dams overflowed at Okosombo and Mpong. Of course, we are seeing need for people to be moved, affected at about 26,000 people, mostly women and children, of course, who are greatly affected when these kinds of things happen in different countries. Of course, now they say they need water, they need food and medicine, and they're working with the government to take care of that. But flooding is affecting every part of, you know, literally, I would say every part of the world. I mean, different types of disasters, and flooding is one thing that is affecting some parts of Africa, Ghana, Nigeria included.
Well, of course, I think last year we saw flooding also happening in Ghana, just at the same moment it happened in Nigeria. What this clearly shows is that the government of the day, Ghana, Nigeria, other continents, African countries, are not really intentional and deliberate in, you know, forward-thinking solutions to the problems that have bedeviled their people. But as long as our heart goes out to, as much as our heart goes out to the people who have been displaced as a result of the flood, is a clarion call on government across board to prioritize, you know, inventive, innovative ways to provide solutions to all of these problems. And we do hope that the Ghana government is able to find a way to ameliorate the suffering of the Ghanaian citizens who have been, you know, affected by this flood. But this is where we take a pause and we head out to national dailies, where we take you around the front pages of the national daily. Stay with us. Well, of course, on Daily Spotlight this morning, we're starting with the front page of the Nation newspaper. On the front page of the Nation this morning, we have a kicker there, Adun, 84 million naira, 84 million living in poverty, not acceptable to Tinubu. Of course, the writer there says, we will give Nigerians decent work, sustain social protection, 25,000 naira cash transfer begins. That is coming from Adun. Of course, we also see still on the front page of the Nation newspaper, Aiyedatiwa's impeachment on hold after APC's mediation. That story is on page 27. Still on the front page of the Nation newspaper, Helpi tells its Fed lawmakers to reject official vehicles. Of course, that story is on page 3 of the Nation. Court issues arrest warrant for ex-Ondo Deputy Governor Abiekuta Otaro to become world-class, says Ogun government. Those stories are on page 27. Of course, we also see illegal exportation of gold, other solid minerals gone, says President Alake. We will stimulate investment. That story is on page 4. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning.
Moving on from the Nation newspaper, we'll be taking a look at This Day newspaper. The big story on This Day says federal government subsidy on electricity returns now 135 billion naira in Q2. We also see here Delabo, Nigeria needs about $262 billion investment to meet 30,000 megawatt power generation target by 2030. We're looking at the front page of This Day newspaper. Another story there says U.S. President Biden visits Israel today as hundreds die in Gaza hospital bombings. We also see declare emergency on drugs, narcotics abuse in Nigeria. Senate urges President. Page 34 is where you can find details of that particular story. We also see here on the front page of This Day newspaper, Shetima, strategic partnership between Nigeria, China, key to Africa's development. Media Certification Board to license journalists in Nigeria. Page 37. Okay, we also see here Tinubu foreign policy drive boosting investors' confidence. The last story that we have here is Bachia Obi won 2023 presidential poll. Tinubu came distant third. Okay, there's still a lot more conversations coming out of that. And that's what we have on the front page of This Day.
Next up is the front page of Punch newspaper this morning. And of course, the kicker there says 35,000 wage award. Labour gives governors ultimatum. 61 million Nigerians to get 1 trillion naira. Of course, rather, ultimatum given by NLC TEC applicable to states, Kanu Gombe, NLC chapters, orders. 15 million households to get 25,000 monthly program will reduce poverty, says World Bank. That story is on page 2, the front page of Punch newspaper. Tinubu ministers face first assessment January. That story is on page 26. Protesters storm National Assembly, oppose EFCC chair's confirmation. That story is on page 7. Of course, why I won 550 million naira damages for compulsory retirement ex-DIG. The story is on page 4. Of course, we see a picture story there, 14 injured as 2 BRT vehicles collide in Lagos. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of Punch this morning.
Okay, we're going to take our very last paper this morning, and that will be Nigerian Tribune will be the very last paper that we're looking at this morning. Big story there. APC holds Ondo Deputy Governor's impeachment process, meets with lawmakers. Akeredolu rules out return to Germany for treatment. Pages 5 is where you can find details of that story. Tinubu names Aliyu Arabi as RCPC NECON chairman. Of course, page 5 is where you have details of that story. We also see here troops apprehended 59 suspected criminals in Plateau, Bauchi, and Kaduna. Page 13 is where we have details of that story. We also see here police bust illegal arms manufacturing company in Lagos, arrest 2. Page 12, very, very sad story. We also see here storm in Senate as Ndume walks out over clash with Akpabio, drama over point of order. Page 8, it seems this 10th now seems to have a lot of drama around it. Of course, we've also recently seen a lot of moves and requests by some, sects in the country for, the Senate president to resign and all of those things. So let's see what are all these troubles that are building up. But still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, we also see here Israel-Palestine conflict. Stop the war on Gaza now, says NSCIA. Page 10 is where you have the details. UBA Business Series. Experts emphasize discipline, consistency as hope for wealth management. Page 7. Reps probe MDA's ever utilization of 100 billion naira COVID-19 intervention fund. Page 13, of course. Let these people come and answer the questions as to what they did with all of those monies. Just heading to the end here, 26 trillion naira 2024 budget proposal still reflects economy's heavy dependence on oil, says expert. Prioritize budgets on infrastructure, power and security, says CPPE. Page 7. Last story. Tinubu flags off cash transfer program for 15 million households. Poverty, of gunpowder if unchecked, says Edu. Okay, page 10. That's where we have it. Page, conditional cash transfer is coming up today. 15 million households. Let's see. I know that every time we talk about this, Nigerians keep asking, is this money really going to get to all Nigerians? The last one that was shared, I didn't see it, I didn't hear about it. Is it just something that we talk about in the media, or are these things that, are happening in real time? But this is the much that we can take on the front pages of the national dailies. Feel free to pick any copy and get details of all of the stories, some of which are conversations that we've had so far. So get on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to have detailed insights to these stories. We head out now to the news brief desk, where Mary Joseph will bring us tidbits of global news when we return. The focus conversations that we'll have on Rise and Shine. So do stay with us.
heads of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in Secretary County.
Heads of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in Secretary County.
Reports that the federal government has begun a quarterly assessment of the performance of the 48 ministers in January, when their ministries will have received the budget for the 2024 fiscal year. The special advisor to the president on policy coordination, Ms. Hadiza Usman, explained that the annual scorecard would be reviewed during periodic retreats where performances would be assessed against key performance indicators. Away from that, the Minister of Finance and Coordinator Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has said that the 84 million Nigerians living in poverty is unacceptable to President Bola Tinubu. Recall that President Tinubu launched the Renewed Hope Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative at the presidential villa. For 3 months, 15 million poor households nationwide would receive 25,000 naira cash support, for which 1.125 trillion naira has been provided. Meanwhile, the organized labor has issued a 2-week deadline to governors to commence negotiations on the 35,000 naira wage award for workers in their state, in line with the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the federal government, the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. The state chapters of the NLC and TUC, which handed down the ultimatum on Tuesday, said they had written to the governors to fast-track the necessary protocols and implement the award meant to assuage the subsidy removal pains. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has promised to do everything within his power to maintain peace, equity and justice, and asked to paramount rulers from the 31 local government areas to reciprocate his gesture in their respective domains in the state. The governor made this known when he played host to the paramount rulers drawn from all the 31 local government areas to seek ways of resolving the lingering issues around the leadership of the President General of the Supreme Council of Traditional Rulers at the State Executive Council Chambers, Uyo. We head straight now to the foreign scene, where hundreds of Palestinians are feared dead after a huge blast at a hospital in Gaza City, blamed by the Hamas groups on an Israeli airstrike. Israel says the blast was caused by rockets misfired by another group, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and both sides deny blame. Reports say at least 600,000 Palestinians have fled the northern Gaza Strip for the south since Israeli military warnings, adding that Israel has blocked essential supplies to Gaza in retaliation for a Hamas attack on 7th October that left 1,300 Israelis dead. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden will visit Israel on Wednesday, but a planned summit in Jordan with Arab leaders has been cancelled. And finally, in sports, former Super Eagles captain Austin Egoven has admitted that Nigerians have been craving another African Cup of Nations trophy win. Nigeria last lifted the African trophy 10 years ago when they triumphed into South Africa, beating Burkina Faso 1-0 in the final. Recall that the Eagles are 3 times winners of the AFCON, with the West African Giants riding to victories in 1980, 1994 and 2013. We'll have details of this and many more now. News at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Francis and Uyaye on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in Secretary County.
Heads of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lives in Secretary County.
police force, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
of course, glad to welcome you back. It's still Rise and Shine Midweek Edition coming to you live on Spectrum Television. Of course, we are beaming live from Uyo, the very beautiful capital city of Akwa Ibom State. And we encourage you to be part of the conversations by hopping on our socials, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. A plethora of stories that we brought this morning started off with the Senate urging the federal government to declare a state of emergency in Nigeria as a result of substance abuse. We also talk about the fact that Ibom Air launches regional plan route from Accra, from Nigeria, Lagos to Ghana yesterday, celebrating a milestone achievement, which of course goes to their commitment on the management of Ibom Air, which had promised during the 4th anniversary, to actually kickstart the flight. Of course, we also talked about the fact that the appointees of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu will be getting their first performance review by January 2024. And still talking about revenue generation, we see that President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has said the era of illegal exportation of gold and other solid mineral is gone. We also talked about the disaster of flood happening in Ghana, where you see a lot of people, 26,000 people to be precise, being displaced as a result of flood. These and many more we brought to you this morning, but of course it's time for us to go into a focused conversation this morning, and we will be talking about the 25,000 naira conditional cash transfer that was launched yesterday by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, just opposing that side by side with the fact that we still have about 84 million Nigerians living in abject poverty, which of course has been described by Dr. Edung, as not acceptable to President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. But when you look at the fact that we're already having issues with billions of naira budgeted for the acquisition of SUV for National Assembly members, and then you place that with the paltry sum of 25,000 naira being given to Nigerians, you ask the question, are we really ready to transform the statistics when it comes to the number of Nigerians who are living in abject poverty?
These are big questions that we are asking this morning. Of course, we are going to be looking at, of course, today the federal government, as led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Minister for Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation, Better I Do, will be flagging off the conditional cash transfer today, 25,000 naira to 15 million households. We have a guest joining us now, Victor Anilaju, all the way from Lagos. I was recently referring to him as Mr. President. Of course, he is a one-time presidential aspirant under the People's Democratic Party for, I will not mix my numbers, I think it was 2023 elections, yes. And he's one of the very vocal voices that we have in Nigeria at this time. Of course, he is the founder of EPA. Good morning, Victor Anilaju. Thanks for joining us all the way from Lagos this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show this morning. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It looks like poverty is biting hard. Just 2 days ago, the world over was celebrated the International Day for Poverty Eradication, yes. And it looks like the conversation of poverty is really, really on the front burner. Looking at the fact that we have wars in most nations of the world. I mean, Israel has just been embroiled into a war with Hamas. We see the Russian-Ukraine war still going on, and we are seeing all kinds of things. I mean, we have heat still boiling up in Ethiopia, other parts of the continent. There's still a lot of questions being asked as to how peace is going to come about. And when these things continue to happen, it intensifies the burden of poverty and hunger. But here in Nigeria, I think what has given rise to this the most is the fact that on May 29, Mr. President had said that subsidy removal is gone. And it looks like the whole country was surviving on the fact that subsidy was being paid for this particular commodity that cuts across all the needs of Nigerians. If you're not using it for power supply, you're using it for your vehicle, because the country has not been able to provide us with certain basic amenities. So it's a problem. Now, we are at the journey from May 29, where we have now arrived where the federal government is saying, starting today, they are going to start distributing 25,000 naira to 15 million households as conditional cash transfer. They have put vulnerable pensioners also on that list. What does this mean to you? This conditional cash transfer, it's going to span for 6 months. Is this the right step in the right direction, or what exactly is happening in Nigeria?
Okay, so like I always say, this is the best APC can offer to us. APC has failed Nigerians in every aspect of governance. And like I said earlier on in this show, we should expect more of this makeover. The program of the cash transfer is just a makeover. Yeah, and if you ask me as a person, I will tell you this is also to show you how poorly managed APC has managed this country. If we have to now come to this level again, before it was market money during Buhari administration, he gave out some money to market people, 10,000, and he didn't heed any. Nigerians now, we're not asking for fish. We're asking the government to teach us how to fish, provide for us the necessary amenities that we need to fish. Nigerians are not lazy people. Nigerians are not people that fold their hand and do not. Right? We have tried this method over and over again. They said it's only a madman that will do same thing over and over again and expect a different returns. The Buhari-led administration under the APC tried it for 8 years and they failed. Giving people cash has not really solved the problem in the world, especially giving people money that don't work for the money. Now, why don't you convert this cash to services? Why don't you build more farms that can provide more food for us and give us this food on a subsidy base? There is no country on this earth as we speak that is not subsidizing a product. Either they are subsidized, America subsidized their food, India subsidized their transport fare, London subsidized their health care. There is no country. It's only in Nigeria here the government will want to brag to say we are taking away subsidy. Giving subsidy to the people is actually an advantage, not a disadvantage, if it is properly managed. So if you say you are taking a subsidy away from petroleum product, then put it on the food stuff, put it on education. Let education become free so that I don't like using that word, the poor people, so that the people who are not privileged to have so much in our society can be able to access basic knowledge. Knowledge, they say, is power. Knowledge, they say, is money. Knowledge, they say, is everything. Everything rises and falls on the knowledge you know. So now you have removed subsidy. School fees is now high. Rent is now high. You are telling us you are giving us 25,000. And this 25,000 you're talking about, you are giving to a selected few. What is the statistics that you use to select this few? We don't even know. So this is my own take on this matter. This is just a political move again from APC. This is what APC, this is what they know how to do. They don't know how to govern. They don't know how to lead. They just know how to play local politics. And they have tried it for too long. And it's taking us even more into poverty. Now you are going to give people 25,000 for 6 months. So after the 6 months, what happened? People should want to steal. What? You want to start something that you don't have sustainable plan. Come on now. Come on. Any goal today that needs to cushion the suffering of the people must have a proper sustainable plan. It must sustain for 5 years at least, down to 10 years. That is when you know it's effective. There is no initiative that is effective till after 5 to 10 years. In fact, at your 5 years, you know you are just starting. At the 10th year, you just step into the first phase. But if you say you want to do this for 6 months, are you using this to tell people to be silent over your injustice? Are you using this to tell people not to talk about you being an illegal president? Are you using this to tell the people
Victor,
just not to fight, right?
Yeah, so we are looking at the fact that, subsidy seems to be a touchy conversation in Nigeria. Like you rightly said, most, even developed nations of the world subsidize one community or the other. But we have been priding in that whole subsidy removal. Let's also look at the cost of governance and how it impacts on, some other infrastructure that should be given to Nigerians. We are looking at the fact that 160 million naira has been earmarked per head to provide what we'll call a logistic vehicle for members of the National Assembly and the House of Representatives. If we multiply those numbers by the numbers of people in the National Assembly and the House of Reps, it should be running to some billions of naira just to get them cars to be able to drive to and from work. But we are seeing that, the federal government is giving paltry sums. It was 8,000 naira in the first place that cannot even prepare you a pot of soup. Now we're talking about 25,000 naira for 6 months. The question, it was Kingsley Moghalu yesterday that was saying we need to cut, their earnings by 50%. Don't you think that we need to review the cost of governance, and especially how much the cost of governance is, I think sometimes when we say the cost of governance, it looks like the money that we are using to do projects, but cost of governance now is like making the people making our policies comfortable.
Best word to use is the cost of running our political system. I think that should be the best word, because cost of governance is it encompasses both money you spend in building roads and all of that, right? We should reduce the cost of our political earnings. What are Nigerian politicians earning as a people, right? But you and I know the truth. One of these reasons why APC will keep showering money on politicians is for them to support them to perpetuate evil in the country. It's for them to support their agenda. The reason why they are giving the senators, the House of Reps, brand new SUV, is for them to support their bill, to support whatever they are doing, for them not to say, okay, this president is an illegal president, let's impeach him. It's for them to endorse their embezzlement. That's what it's all about. It's not actually for them to actually help them to work better. If you now ask me, what have the Senate or the House of Reps achieved for these over 20-something years that we came back into democracy? There is nothing they have achieved. Rather, the Nigerian economy is going worse. The IMF just said that by next year, South Africa economy will be bigger than Nigeria economy. South Africa, they are less than 80 million people, right? And by next year, they will become the biggest economy in Africa. So that tells you that the APC-led government have bastardized and have crippled our economy with their policies that don't have any economical value. As of today, Nigerian naira is going to $1, is going for 1,000 plus to $1. That's just to show you that the level of our poverty is even increasing. They told us before that we have close to 100 million Nigerians who are living below poverty level. I could tell you the truth, whether we believe it or not. We have over 110 million Nigerians living above poverty. Nigeria now don't have middle class. It's either you are rich or you are poor. And if you ask me, the statistics of people who live below poverty level are people who spend below $1 per day. $1 as we speak today, it's 1,000 plus. And I could tell you how many Nigerians is able to spend 1,000 every day. There are very few Nigerians. I will tell you the honest truth. It's just that God has blessed us as a people. We know how fella we call it, suffering and smiling. We know how to wear the best of clothes, look very good, talk very good, even in the midst of abject poverty. But if you look at the indices of our economy, Nigeria economy is doing badly. In fact, right now, what our politicians should be earning is just like a stipend. They should be earning stipend. We should cut totally. 50% is too big now. We should cut close to 70 to 80% of the earnings of the political sector. What they earn. That's why a lot of them are just there. They are not even. They are just there to occupy seats. If you ask me, how many senators in Nigeria today have sponsored the bill, and how many of that bill have been passed? They are not up to 100. for the past 16 years, even down to the 20 years. So I will just tell you the honest truth, right? Which this is one truth that the PDP hates to hear. The APC, both of those two parties has failed this economy, has failed us as a people totally. I will want to say this. Nigeria at this point, we need an entering government that can come in, stabilize a lot of nonsense that is going on.
But Victor Nilaje, those conversations is not one conversation that we want to have. I mean, we remember that during the elections, it was something that was heating up the politics so much, and we had to be careful because we do not have any other Nigeria apart from, you know, the one that we currently have. We would just ask that our leaders would do right by, you know, the system, and let's have peace instead of overturning or overheating the polity of the, you know, the country by having any other kinds of leadership. Look at what the coups all around, you know, the continent is doing to other countries. Francis.
All right, of course, Victor. I know that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but if you ask me as a citizen of this country, I have my right to express how I feel. The political sector is not working for Nigerians. They are working for themselves. You and I could testify to that. It's just because you are on the other side of the screen. You know that the politicians don't work for you and I. They work for themselves. A politician that works for you and I, we reject an SU. We say, give me that money, let me go and feed the poor in my community. That's what they are supposed to be there representing us, but they are not representing us. They are representing themselves, their family, and their political party. So, and if we now say that, let us just keep continuing like this and hope that this politician will change. Politicians in Nigeria don't change. It's either they change by force. You have to force them out for them to change. Next year, you are going to hear they are buying more SUV.
Now, Victor,
next 2 years, you are going to hear they are buying more SUV.
Victor,
so if you say let's wait for them to change, I don't know.
You've mentioned something very silent, Victor. You've said politicians in Nigeria do not change. And for us to see changes, we need to force them to change. Now, I'm going to ask this question. What is the place of civil society organization? What is the place of Nigerians? Because we know our rights are enshrined in the Constitution, and we have the right to hold these politicians accountable. So why are Nigerians not taking their rights by their hands through the instrumentality of the law?
Yes, the truth about it is that because these politicians control the military, they control the police. So whenever you want to come out and ask for your right, just like as what we did during the NSAS, you are being killed. Watch it now. They are even fighting you guys, the press house. They want to silence you people from saying the truth, from telling us the truth. So where do we now go to from here? And somebody will now tell me that we should pray and let the leadership change. The leadership that want to even silence every one of us, at some point in this country, they silent Twitter because Nigerians were going out and saying the truth, or speaking the truth. One of the things you know about the government that is not caring for the people is their ability to silence the press, taking away the freedom of speech, taking away the freedom of press. And once you do that, it enables the politicians to be able to capture our resources and use it for their own personal gain. Do you know how many trillions was borrowed during the Buhari administration? You know that they told us that this money had been borrowed to make Nigeria better. But is Nigeria better today? Nigeria is worse off today. My question is, all those money that they borrow from IMF or World Bank, what did they use them for? I think it's high time we start focusing on something. We have to silence these politicians. We have to force them out of that place of power. Since they are there, they cannot do the right thing. It is high time we need to tell them that that office does not belong to you. It belongs to the people. It is the trust of the people that kept you there. Even if we know that majority of them, like our president, was not duly voted for. They are all illegal. They are occupying the political space.
Victor, I like to pause you there. I like to pause you there on the validity of the president. As we speak, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal had given its verdict authenticating the fact that INEC's declaration of Ahmed Bola Tinubu as president remains valid. And so he is, as far as the Constitution, as far as our judiciary system is concerned, the president, unless otherwise overturned by the Supreme Court, which of course we know the presidential candidate of the PDP and that of Labour Party are already at the Supreme Court as we speak. But as it stands, as far as the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is concerned, Ahmed Bola Tinubu is the authentic president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But aside from
Let
that...
me correct you, sir.
All right?
Let me correct you, sir. Following the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, if you forge your results to contest an election, you have lost that seat. It's there in our Constitution.
But
Following the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria,
there's
you
no
need
place
to
where it's been
win
established
Abuja.
that the president's results were forged. There has been no establishment of
100%
that
it
whatsoever.
was forged now. The California State University
Chicago
has
State
told us
University,
that
yeah.
the result that is with INEC is not from them.
Well, the same Chicago State University have also said that Ahmed Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, is the same Ahmed that they admitted into their school. And of course, we saw the BBC fact-checker report that also validated that same claim.
Yes.
No, sir. They only said that there was a Bola Ahmed, there was a Bola Tinubu that attended their university. They are still on investigation right now to verify if it is the person we have here in our country.
So how do you now explain? How do you explain the BBC fact-checker report that validated the fact that Ahmed Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, was the same Ahmed Bola Tinubu who attended the CSU?
Let me now tell you something. In the document they released, the Bola Tinubu that attended the university have a citizen number, citizen welfare number. If you have that, that shows that you don't need to apply for visa. But our president applied for US visa last year. So I don't want us to make it the Bola Ahmed discussion. It's not worth it. It's a disgrace and embarrassment to us.
Well,
right?
as far as
but the university said this, sir. The university said this, that the certificate that is with INEC, that Bola Ahmed tender as his certificate, is not from them. I don't know any other way we want to talk about this, but what I'm saying is that if you bring Nigerian Constitution as of today, it says that you must win at least 24 states and Abuja, which Bola Ahmed did not win 24 states and did not win Abuja.
Well, as far as those arguments is concerned, Victor, as far as those arguments are concerned, the judiciary had interpreted the law. And we know that as far as the Constitution of Nigeria is concerned, the people saddled with the responsibility for that interpretation is the judiciary. So unless the judiciary gives Nigerians a different interpretation as it stands, it is validated that Ahmed Bola Tinubu is the president. But let's move away back to wrap up our conversation this morning. What can we do differently to change the narrative in Nigeria as far as poverty is concerned?
The first thing we need to do, like I've said, we need to cut down costs of the political earnings. What our politicians earn, we need to cut it down by 70 to 80%. If possible, our politicians should be earning stipend. They should go and get work. They should go and get their own personal work and earn allowances for sitting down. They can sit for 3 hours, 3 times every week and do their own personal work. Right? Maybe going forward, we should start electing people into office. One of the criteria for you to be elected into office is either you are employed or you have your own business, and you are only going to spend just 4 hours in doing this work, whatever work they think that they are doing, which we are not seeing the impact of the work. You cannot be paying people and they are not giving you results. The only reason why both of you are seated there today in your office is because you are bringing results to your employers. We are the employers of these politicians. They are not giving us the results we want.
So, Victor, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question
Yeah.
before I let you go. If you were a member of the National Assembly or a member of the House of Representatives, will you move a motion in that house that your salaries and emoluments should be reduced by 80%? Because right now, one of the biggest
100%.
we know that there is nobody in that house that will move that motion right now. If it were to be you, Victor Anilaji, would you have made that motion for us?
No. See, former Senator Ben Bruce raised that notion. In fact, he even sponsored a bill for that. But do you know what they told Ben Bruce? They said it's because Ben Bruce has businesses. That is why he's saying that. Which is why me, I'm advocating. Let our politicians be entrepreneurs. Let them be business people. Because majority of them in that house, right, their earnings are only what comes from the government. And if the government does not pay them, if they don't take money from the government, they don't get any money. So that's why they don't mind. If you even go there today, tell them that you want to buy them three e-losses, they are going to approve it.
All right, Victor,
and let me tell you the honest truth.
Thank you so much,
Let me tell you the honest
for coming on the show this morning. Of course, you have established that if you were to be in the house, you would move a motion to reduce those salaries and emoluments. But thank you so much for coming on the show this morning and giving us your thoughts with regards to the poverty situation in Nigeria. Of course, we've been speaking with Victor Anilaju, who himself is the founder of IPE, an financial institution, and himself, of course, he's got eyes on the first seat of this nation sometime again. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day, Victor.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Right,
have a lovely day.
And you too. Strong conversations. Of course, Victor always has different insights to different things happening in the country. But like he said, we need to begin to see more people being proactive with servant leadership in Nigeria. At this point, we'll just take a quick break. And when we return, we'll be joined by our next guest. Of course, there's so much more conversation we would have in the time remaining on Rise and Shine. So just stay with us.
Special report on World Standard Day 2023, celebrated October 14th every year. Every year, on October 14th, the world observes World Standards Day, also known as International Standards Day. The day celebrates the work of the thousands of experts who create voluntary standards inside organizations that establish standards. Recall that in 1946, delegates from 25 nations came together in London and made the decision to create an international group with the goal of promoting standardization. It is important to note that the ISO standards are a group of widely accepted guidelines that were developed with the intentions of assisting businesses in achieving levels of homogeneity with respect to management, service delivery, and product development. The first World Standard Day was not observed until 1970, despite the fact that ISO was established 1 year later. There is a long list of popular international standards However, we will highlight some of them, which includes ISO 45001. This ISO standard builds on the success of earlier international standards in this area such as OHSAS 1801, the International Labour Organization's ILO OSH guidelines, various national standards and the ILO's International Labour Standards and Conventions. ISO 639, internationally recognized codes for the representation of more than 500 languages or language families. With ISO 639, this ISO standard can be applied across many types of organizations and situations. It's invaluable for bibliographic purposes, in libraries or information management, including computerized systems, and for the representation of different language versions on website. ISO 4217, this standard establishes internationally recognized codes for the representation of currencies that enable clarity and reduce errors. People around the world rely on almost 300 different currencies to do business with each other, which is why it pays to use ISO 4217. ISO 8601, this ISO standard helps remove doubt that can result from the various date conventions, cultures, and time zones that impact a global operation. It gives a way of presenting dates and times that are clearly defined and understandable to both people and machines. The order of the element used to express date and time is ISO 8601. It's as follows: year, month, day, hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. ISO 13216 describes a universal system for anchoring child restraint systems to vehicles. The purpose Of course, I guess is engineer Ismaila Lawal Ayanda, the state coordinator, Son, Akwa Ibom State, the former coordinator for Son Edo State. Of course, he was transferred years in 2021, a certified ISO quality management system lead auditor and a significant individual who has represented Nigeria in ECOWAS, Africa and global level as far as standardization and quality assurance of product and services is concerned. Good morning, Engineer Lawal. Welcome to Rise and Shine. Hello, good morning, Engineer Lawal. Seems to be having some challenges getting Engineer Lawal's audio there. But of course, standardization has been one of the major issues we were talking about just yesterday. Some comment coming from the NAFDAC boss, Professor Adeyeye, who spoke about the fact that Nigerians' product being rejected outside the shores of the country because of poor packaging, and a couple of comments coming from the NAFDAC boss, just looking into excerpts to some of the things she has said this morning. Of course, we see that the NAFDAC boss talked about the need for Nigerians to prioritize standardization and also called on relevant government agencies, entrepreneurs, to ensure that within the course of their doing business, they look into some of the standardization issues that have been raised. We saw that poor packaging, disregard for importation requirement of trading partners countries, penchant for sourcing from open markets for exports without any form of minimal safety or quality specifications. Of course, unwillingness to invest in pre-export activities that help ensure sustainable export, and of course this information on the share roles of NAFDAC in the pre-shipment inspection and verification exercise of container stuffing. Those are the comments, some of the key comments coming from the NAFDAC boss as being the reason why Nigerians entrepreneurs are having their product outside the shores of Nigeria not being widely accepted. And those are some of the conversations we had hoped to have with Engineer Lawal this morning. I do like to believe we have gotten Engineer Lawal back on the line. If not, we'll have to continue with this conversation maybe some other time. But of course, yeah, just looking at the comment coming from the NAFDAC boss, we're looking at a point where export has been widely canvassed for. We know that the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, you know, have talked about the need for us to diversify and the need for the government to invest more into ensuring that we have a lot more of, you know, Nigerians exporting as against always importing. And they've also talked about the importance of that to the Nigerian economy.
We apologize for the inability to bring up our guest this morning. We'll reschedule that interview, probably bring it on tomorrow. We are out of time and would not be able to have a robust conversation with him. But of course, we are looking at standardization of the goods and, you know, products in Nigeria. How acceptable are our goods and services when exported to other nations of the world? And we find out that also, of course, when standardization is done wrongly, it is going to, you know, affect our economic power, our value exchange with other nations of the world. And some other highlighted reasons that Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, who is the Director General for NAFDAC, she pointed out that non-utilization of free laboratory testing by NAFDAC for export samples, coupled with the connivance of unscrupulous elements, are part of the reasons why our products are, you know, suffering a lot of decline on the international market. These are really strong conversations. We will get engineer to join us again, hopefully tomorrow, at a better time, to look at standardization issues. What's the part of manufacturers? What are the part of you know, the Standard Organization of Nigeria? What are the roles that we are playing to culminate in the fact that we are not doing well with regards to sales on, you know, Nigerian-made products? So, you know, these are really strong conversations, things that we need to look into. When we are standing at a time where the economy of the nation is failing. We need to be able to wage our product and services just so that we can earn more. And these are the conversations that we would have in better time. But this will be the much that we can take with regards to these conversations at this time. We apologize once again for not being able to come through with that particular interview. But of course, we've had robust conversations. Remember that today we kick off the conditional cash transfer of yesterday rather, conditional cash transfer of 25,000 naira to 15 million households, as led by the ministry, where we have Better Edu in charge, Ministry of Humanitarian Aid and Poverty Alleviation. Let's see. We hope to be able to get testimonies from across Nigeria. So if this scheme and this conditional cash transfer gets to you, please take advantage of our social media platforms. Go to our website. Also take advantage of our phone lines that will be displayed on the screen, and let us know this conditional cash transfer, has it gotten to your state? Can you testify of persons that are beneficiaries of this initiative? Do not forget that the federal government is saying it is going to last for just 6 months. We have asked, after 6 months, what then should these families do? They have a hope that when they give 25,000 naira to 15 million households, that it is going to affect an average of 60 million families in the country. But these are mere numbers on the papers until we see what the implementation style is going to be by the federal government at this time.
Well, definitely, just like our guest Victor has said, one of the biggest problems with the social investment scheme of the federal government has always been the implementation, the fact that Nigerians are not witnessing the impact of the conditional cash transfer across the different families that we are told is going to affect. But this is where we're going to pause the conversation on today's edition, the midweek edition of Rise and Shine. I'd like to appreciate you for always being there, you know, to keep us company. Of course, we do hope we made your day a filled one, and we wish you a very lovely Wednesday experience. Let's do this again, same time, same station tomorrow, as we will be bringing you another line of interesting conversations across board. My name is Francis Oyima Edet.
My name is Uyai Aneka, and thanks for being a part of Rise and Shine today. Thank you for choosing Spectrum Television. Until tomorrow, do have a very blessed Wednesday.